with my ex. I was like, you knew that I came from this polygamous cult. You talk shit on these polygamous men. You are worse than them because at least they're doing it in front of the women. You're trying to force me to live polygamy without my consent.
Oh my god.
And I messaged the girl. I was like, hey, just so you know, he's been lying to the both of us. I've been reading the messages. She wasn't willing to go through his phone and I was. This was so empowering and I encourage every woman to do this. After you find out, after you have all the screenshots, you have all the evidence, confront them and then tell them you're never gonna see them again. But I flat out was like, doing that same thing, like calling him out on his lies and knowing the truth and seeing if he's gonna lie again. And I was like, you might have to bleep this up, but I was like, I want you, because he kept looking out the window and he was like, we were just roommates, we weren't even having sex. I grabbed his face and I was like, I want you to look me in the fucking eyes when you lie to me. And he, like a little kid, he was like, cross-eyed. It felt so good.
Hey, my name is Shelise Ansola.
And I'm Jonathan Rosales.
And this is Cults to Consciousness, where we discuss leaving high demand religions or organizations and finding healing and independence through awareness and true individual sovereignty. As always, if you're only listening and you want to see our faces, you can go to our YouTube channel at Cults to Consciousness, where you can join in on the conversation, like, subscribe, become a supporter and advocate for these people bravely coming on and sharing their stories. That would be amazing. And remember that our guests always read the comments, so it means a lot to leave those words of encouragement for them. So today's guest, we have had her on before. You guys love her. I say it in every video.
Everyone loves
her.
Amanda
Everyone
Ray.
loves her.
We just had your entire family on for the most part.
We did. Yeah. So Amanda Ray, welcome back.
Hello.
We are going to be going into life after the order. So Amanda grew up in what is known as an incestuous polygamous cult in Utah, which is a breakoff of the mainstream Mormon church. Back when they stopped practicing polygamy, there were splits. People said no. Joseph Smith said this is the way, and they continue to practice polygamy. But what is the most disturbing part about this specific group is that they practice incestuous polygamy, and it's not just someone marrying a cousin every now and then. It is men continuously marrying half-sisters, their own nieces, and they have 16 plus wives, over 200 children. It gets really problematic, and we did an entire live about how incest can also breed deformities and birth defects in children. So we have done multiple episodes on this, guys. We'll definitely link her previous episodes in the description. And as Jonathan said, we have had her entire family on. So there's a lot of information there. But today we want to focus on life after the order, and also some behind the scenes stories from Escaping Polygamy, the TV show, which everyone knows and loves as well. And so a lot of people are curious about the behind the scenes of the TV show.
I think we were scouring our comment section from our previous interviews with you, and those were the highlight comments. Was what's life like for Amanda? Our most favorite questions for you, and we're going to ask them all right here, right now for you.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
It'll be like rapid fire.
Fire.
Perfect.
Yeah, but our episodes are always a good time, so I'm looking forward to it. So where do you want to start?
I mean, if we could start with the show and then go into after.
Okay.
If I don't know if that would make more sense to do, because we are going to be talking about like what people did see on the show, because a lot of people saw me at 18 get married. Right. And there was actually a lot of people commenting on my YouTube, where's your husband now? Like, why don't you post anything on Instagram with him? Why are all your pictures of him deleted? People ask that so much. And I was kind of shocked, because I was like, I could never think of going on someone like your page and publicly saying, where's your husband? You know? And I called them out. I was like, you guys, would you go like to your friend on Facebook and say, hey, where's that guy you've been dating? You know? Right. And people apologize. They're like, you're right. We shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, you're supposed to secretly wonder by yourself as you're stalking the page. You're not supposed
I respected though the ones that came and DM'd me. Even that like was more respect than someone that was like, hey, where's Eric? And they all knew his name because it was on the show. Right. And I was like, I understand that there's like a lot of curiosity because you did watch me get married on the show, but I'm not ready to talk about it, because at that time I was so ashamed that I was getting divorced because everyone in the order said, including my own parents, you're going to leave. You're going to marry this guy that you're running away with, and I'll give you 5 years, and then you're going to get divorced.
Oh, jeez. No. So you're dealing with that.
I honestly feel like I stayed with him longer because I was so nervous of what people were going to say. And
they said you wanted to prove them wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. After the divorce, they were all like...
Yeah.
I think that's a testament, by the way, people feeling like they can ask you point blank, where's your husband, to the connection that they feel like they have with you. We were just talking about it off camera about your trauma and how you do on your own channel. And if you're not subscribed to Amanda Ray, you should be.
Go subscribe.
You are just very candid. You're very open. And that creates... like a trauma bond where people can then open up to you. So I feel like there's a connection that they feel like to you.
And looking back now, I don't feel like I would get offended. But I think at that time, because it was so raw and like, why are you guys asking me these intrusive questions? But I also feel like you're right, because I was able to talk about some of the deepest forms of trauma that I've been through that so many people would never do publicly.
Exactly.
So then they're like, oh, well, we can probably ask anything because she's an open book, which at that point, I feel like at this point I am, but at that point I was like, this is so raw. Like my own mom didn't even know what was going on. And so people asking that, I was like, should I delete these comments? I don't know how to handle it. But it was a good growing experience for myself to figure out how I was going to address it. But I eventually did. And I have a whole video out now on my channel. I think I named it Why I Filed for Divorce, because I honestly named it that because there was a lot of rumors running around that he divorced me. And like there was order people will take things and run with it. So I was like, I'm coming out with this video, and it wasn't to bash him, but it was to set the record straight that I filed for divorce from him.
I watched that video. I felt like you were very cordial about the whole thing. You were very cautious with your words to not make him look bad. I appreciated that.
I really was trying to respect the family too, because I still love his family, and he had so many little siblings that I immediately felt this connection with, like they were my siblings. So I wanted to respect them as well, but I also felt like I deserved to be able to share my side. I kind of feel like I brushed over things in that video because I was so like nervous to step on toes. And he actually did reach out to me and be like, wow, you really ran me over in that video. Wow. And I was like, what?
Still can't win.
Yep. I was like, no matter what, I can't win. And I did say, I was like, I deserve the same thing. I deserve to tell my story, and you can too. Wow. But if I wanted to run you over, I could have. I really could have.
There was even a part that you omitted retroactively.
Yep.
Because you didn't want to make him look bad. So you even you even wrote the caption. You're like, I'm going to omit this part. I realized that I don't want to step on his toes with this.
Yeah. I feel like I was trying really hard, and like it made me feel upset that he felt that way. But I was also like, I think at the end of the day, he's no matter what going to be upset because I walked away from the marriage. And at the end of the day, there were a lot of things that were similar to the order. And one of the biggest issues in the divorce, I feel like, was him bringing up religion again. Not religion, but God. Like, we were sent together for a reason. You're really going to throw this away. And that was thrown in my face a lot.
Because if you guys don't know, within the order, getting direction, that's what they call getting direction, is really important. And you're supposed to get direction on who you're supposed to marry at like 8 years old. And so you're basically groomed and primed and ready to get married super, super young. And so I would assume that because he came from the order, he also still had that mentality of, no, this is ordained by God and this is what God wants. And so just throwing that in your face.
Well, also within the order, the whole building up the kingdom of God is to put the man on the pedestal, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you go from your father being the head of the household to now. But now, granted, when you and Eric is his name, your ex, when you guys both left, which is, so the show, Escaping Polygamy, the pilot episode, you got married in that show. Right. But you guys were fresh just out of the order at that point, right?
My leaving the order date was July 25th of 2013. And then my marriage date was May 14th of 2014. So just shortly after we were planning the wedding, right? We were going to get married. This was it. There was a lot of, I hate telling so much of this story because, like, yes, I deserve to say my side, but it's also, he's so involved in it that it's his story too, and he's gonna get brought up a lot.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of, like, after we left, guilt surrounded by doing any activities that were what married people should be doing, and there was still like this shadow of the order following us.
You mean the purity thing, the sexual purity thing?
Sorry, I don't know how to like word. Like,
just say
like the naughty stuff. You're not supposed to be having
don't
sex.
Don't have sex. Don't touch each other's genitals.
even though we were going to be spending the rest of our lives together, I was like, I don't understand why this is something that's such a big deal. Also, we just left the Lord's place, right? Like, we're going to hell no matter what. No, I didn't have that whole idea. We did believe like when we have kids, we're going to raise them, you know, with religion. I still though was like, we have to find the right church. We were so traumatized from that place that it was so hard to build a marriage on that. But like, I didn't know. I was like, this is better than what they had there.
I mean, you're living your whole life in the order, in this cult, and then you're expected to just deconstruct. You know, we talk about the deconstruction process with our guests and how that's different for everybody. Some people it takes decades. So for you, I mean, you guys are so young. You just leave. We were talking about off camera yesterday. You take on the culty tendencies that they still. I mean, there are probably still culty tendencies now, right? That you still have, but you're so fresh. You guys are so young. So what were some of the things that you felt were still so adamantly carried over?
I actually talked about this in my Handmaid's Tale video. My mom had went through my closet as a teenager and she took away all of the immodest clothing. And she was like, I'm going to ask your husband one day if you can wear these things. And I thought she was joking. She legit, when I got married, had us come over, me and my husband, to the house, and she pulls out this box of all my immodest clothing and asks him if it's okay that I have it back.
But what was his response?
Thank God. See, this is why I liked him at the time, because he was like, she's her own person. She's allowed to wear what she wants. Right. But I will say he said those things publicly, and there were times privately he was like, are you trying to get men's attention for wearing these outfits? And I would be like, right. What? Like, you just think that I'm just walking around like, hey, this is for all the boys in the house. Like, there was a lot of times in our marriage, I was like, why did you marry me if you really have this persona of women like this? Why not? I've said this, like, you should just be gay. Sounds like you like men a lot more than women. There's sadly, a lot of sexist men who come from the order. And it's because how are you going to come out of that environment and be for equality when your whole life they're like, you're not going to have one wife, you're going to have many, and they're going to be serving you, and they're going to be raising the kids, and they're going to be cooking the meals, and you're going to bring them to heaven because you're so righteous, because you have a penis. So he did walk out of that sexist cults, not as sexist as the rest, but there were times where I was like, how are you believing it this way? Like we would have arguments where he would say, well, at the end of the day, I am the man of the house and I do have the final say.
Oh, no thanks. Babe, if you ever said that to me, I would be like,
come on.
I know that you would never, but that's what I mean, if you would, if you ever said that.
How did he handle that comment about maybe you're into men?
Okay. I hate feeling like this is a bashing session. I want to do a disclaimer for if his family's watching or if he's watching. This is him almost 10 years ago, fresh out of the cult. I also, fresh out of the cult, did some toxic things too. I wasn't perfect either. I'm trying to just paint a picture for, this is how a lot, not just mine, a lot of relationships went for people who leave these cults. So I'm just using mine as an example. Again, he probably is a way different person now. But back then, he would say these comments like, even after we had left, well, if God wants me to live polygamy, I do have to live polygamy. If he wants me to take another wife, I have to do that. Because I have to do anything that God wants me to do. So then I would make the example, okay, so if God wants you to marry a man, then you need to do that too. And he would be like, why are you saying that? And I would enforce it. Like, if God wants you to have sex with a man, you have to. Just the same way that if he wants you to have sex with a woman, you have to. And he's like, it's the same thing. He would just get so triggered and frustrated with me. Like, obviously God's not going to ask that. And I would be like, well, obviously God's not going to ask you to cheat on your wife. Got him. So we would have these arguments a lot in the beginning of our marriage. And then I feel like slowly, this is like sad to say, like I lost myself because there were times where I was like, I don't want to fight today. I don't want to have an argument over my basic human rights as a woman. Yeah. And my sisters, sadly, they would say, we saw this like decline in your personality. You became almost robotic, like no emotion. Like I just was stepping on eggshells around him. Because, and also this was normal in the order. When the dad comes home, everyone clean the house, like make sure dad's happy. Because if dad's not happy, we're all going to be not happy in a second. Yeah. So I became this very, I don't know if you call it like.
People pleaser?
Yeah, people pleaser, docile, like housewife. Very,
sedated.
Yeah, for years. And I started therapy, thank God. And I begged him to do therapy with me. He went once and he didn't want to go again, but I kept going, thank God. Because I think that's what finally was like, why am I so unhappy? Why am I so like, I would have fantasies of running away from my life and never looking back.
Which is very similar to how you felt when you were in the order.
Exactly. Yeah. And I told that to my therapist. I was like, why is it that I'm having these fantasies? I've never had them. The only other time was in the order. And when I left, it fixed everything. Yeah. And she's like, where do you want to go? I'm like, I don't care. Anywhere. Can
you talk a little bit about the Rihanna song that kind of helped trigger?
Oh, yeah. So I worked this like really late job in Utah. I was like working at this x-ray tech place, something that I don't even like doing, from 2 to 11 p.m. Every night when I would drive home, I would cry listening to Rihanna. It's the song.
Ghost something?
Why can't I remember the name of it? But yeah, the lyrics are, ghost in the mirror, I knew your face once, but now it's unclear. Like I would bawl because I was like, at one point, I was this like fierce, like crazy bitch.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I don't even know what I want. I was going to school for like dental. I'm like, I don't even like that.
Yeah.
And then like planning this future with someone that I felt so uncertain about. And one of the, like people asked all the time, like, why didn't you guys have kids? You were married for 7 years. And I was like, because I did not feel safe enough. There was topics of discussion, like the gay topic. He was very, and again, I don't know if he's this way now, but a lot of people in the order are this way. He was like, if we have a kid that's gay, because I'd bring up all these topics. What if you have a kid that's gay? That's not okay. That's not okay, Amanda. I'm like, well, then I'm not going to have a kid with you.
Yeah.
Because I cannot imagine putting my kid through the same stuff we went through. And we fought so hard to get out of that. And we're going to go do it again. So that's just an example of one of the things. And then finally it got to the point where I was like, I'm not happy. I got to get out of here. Like, I have to do it for me. There was a point where I was like, maybe I could be miserable and just like, so that he doesn't, because I saw him upset that I wanted to leave him. I saw him cry. I saw how bad it was hurting him. I was like, maybe, that thought in my mind, maybe I could just be miserable for the rest of my life so that he doesn't have to be sad. And I think that's a thought that the order puts in your brain. Like, you suffer for God, for others. And then finally I was like, that's not healthy, because even if we did have kids eventually, what kind of life is that for the kids? The mom's like constantly like, I hate my life.
I think what's interesting is it seemed like he wanted to leave the order, but do everything almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so you have to wonder, what was it for him that made him want to leave in the first place? Because a lot of men don't leave these high control groups because they have the upper hand, because everything's in their favor, because they feel like kings. And so why do you think he wanted to leave if he just wanted to keep all of the same rigid belief systems in place?
I think number one, why he was so against the order, he was Hanson. You know about the Hansons, right? Maybe we'll explain to viewers. In the order, I think I've explained this a lot on my channel, but we have this whole bloodline thing where if like Paul's family and the leadership's family, they really believe that they're like the true descendants of Christ. So they're direct descendants. So their bloodline is so pure, which is why you'll never see a Kingston woman married down. They call it marrying down. They only can marry up in the bloodline, meaning me being really Kingston, I would have to marry up closer Kingston. So who I was supposed to marry was my first cousin. His mom and dad were half siblings. His dad is my uncle. His mom is my dad's full sister. His dad is my dad's half brother. So I was marrying super close Kingston. The guy I ended up marrying, he was Hanson. He was not Kingston at all. He was very prideful about it after he left, but it's because he was very bullied. He was bullied in the school. His family was bullied for being, some would call this bullying. Some would say it's just discrimination. But so an example, just a quick story to get people to know what I'm talking about. In the school, if there was ever a non-Kingston that got in a fight with a Kingston, or like Paul's kids, the leader's kids, the kids would get sent to the office. It was always the non-Kingston that would get like sent home or in trouble. Paul's kids scot-free. So my ex-husband's Hanson, right? He had stories of like them being fed like rotten milk, force-fed rotten milk in the school. What? And they believed that it was because they were Hanson. Like, they didn't do this treatment to the other kids, but for some reason they would be like, well, you got to finish your milk. And even though it was rotten, they'd force feed it to them.
Right.
So just stories like that, there was like, obviously there's an injustice. It's almost like racism, but it's just because you're not closely related.
Just the last name.
And his family openly talked about it, openly talked about the injustice. And so he always had this, like, there's an unfairness. But the day that we left, I remember still talking to him like, why do you still have respect for the leader? And he would, and a lot of people say this, he's never done anything to me. And I'm like, but he's married 27 women. 3 are his own half-sisters. 2 are his nieces. And you are in a religion that is ran by that. Do you not get the connection? And finally, I believe the reason why he left was the day that we left was that July 25th, right, 2013, when I got attacked by my uncle and we ended up calling the police. And he was trying to call Paul, the leader, because it was Paul's brother who attacked me. And Paul immediately was on his brother's side. I remember that when he was calling Paul, I'm like, what? Hang up the phone. He's not going to be on your side. Yeah. But he was convinced that Paul would reason with the right people, which was us. And he was so shocked that Paul wouldn't take our side. Jeez. And I was only 17. I'm like, how do you not know this?
Yeah.
Paul doesn't care about you. And it was a rude awakening for him. He was 22 or 3 at the time. And me, 17-year-old, like I was like in shock that he just now realized the type of person Paul was.
Right.
But I think so many members are like this, like, Paul's good. He's never done anything to me. Abuse? Okay, let me go over here, because it makes them have to reevaluate their entire life.
Well, everything comes crumbling down if you can't trust the leader who is supposed to be speaking for God. I mean, I assume it's the same as in the mainstream Mormon church where you designate a prophet and they're literally talking to God, right?
Yeah.
So when that fails, then you're marrying your sister for what? Like, what's the point of everything?
True.
And so... yeah, everything comes tumbling down. But I want to know more about your psychology because you also chose to get married at 18 after leaving a group, which was probably trying to marry you off at 18 or younger. So what do you think was going through your mind and how did you feel like, was it a comfort thing where you're like, okay, I think I should get married because I'm old now? I think you mentioned before. Oh, yeah. I feel like an old maid at 18.
Yep. I remember feeling that way like 100% because all of my friends in the order were either betrothed, like engaged or married by the time they were 16.
Jeez.
And I even had friends that were dropping out of high school to get married and start a family because that's more important, right? So, and I think that's the way they liked it in the order. Don't let the women be educated because the more educated they are, for some reason they leave.
It's dangerous.
You have less control over them, yeah.
Exactly. And so when I left, I still I don't know where I got the idea of wanting to get married as an adult. Even in the order, I was like, I'm not going to get married till I'm an adult because I feel like I actually have choice in that. Like a child, you have to have your parents sign.
Right.
Which I don't know why that's even legal. But so I leave and at 18, I remember telling my fiance, well, before we were engaged, I was like, why haven't you proposed yet? Like, what are you waiting for? We're taking way too long on this. And he was like, I was pressuring him because I was like, we already know this is what we want. I'm 18. I don't know why. Like, I felt like an old maid. And then to make it worse, I worked at Forever Young Shoes, was my first outside job. And the lady there was 18 and she was getting married.
Really?
She was Hispanic and in her family, it was very normal. And I was like, wow, even she's married before me. Wow. Which is so dumb looking back. I'm like, I wish I could have shook that girl, like, stop it.
Yeah, but you were fresh out and it takes a long time to deconstruct those belief systems and to really understand what is normative for society in general. There's a lot of things within mainstream Mormonism too that I was just like, is this even normal? Like, what is normal? Do people drink alcohol all the time or like only a little bit of the time? Because when you grow up with such a black and white perspective of you can do this and never do this, you don't understand variation. You don't understand even boundaries within yourself. You don't understand your own personality because all of your choices were made for you. Yep. And so I'm sure when you left, you still have these internal beliefs, which I've been gone for 12 years now, and there's still things that pop up every now and then. It's definitely a lot better now, but every now and then I'm just like, is that what I really believe, or is that something that I was told to believe? Yep. So I can imagine if you had just barely left, you are still kind of ingrained in this mentality of I have to fulfill my purpose, which is getting married and having children. I'm glad that you held off on the children's side because that would have been way more difficult.
Yeah. I was so scared that I was going to recreate trauma in my kids' lives. And at least I was aware enough to know I had trauma and that I had to work through that before having kids. So that was one of the reasons I was, because I feel like, why wouldn't I have just gotten pregnant when I first got married? But I realized that I had some issues that I needed to work through first. And then I started realizing we have to work through some issues together. And then, as further on in therapy, I was like, the whole all you need is love is not true. You can love a person so much, but it could be toxic. And it was hard for me to realize that. That's why it took
conditional.
so long.
If it's conditional
yeah,
love.
Definitely. And I said this to my husband. He didn't believe it was conditional love, but I was like, this is the only love that we know, because we came from this place where we thought that was normal love. And we're like, okay, well, that's toxic, but we don't know what's healthy. You can't just come out of this burning fire and all of the sudden have all of these skills to be healthy and healed. So I think it took a lot of like being okay with being wrong, being okay with, my way of thinking is not healthy. And a lot of times people leave and they're not okay with, I think we were raised so much like we are in the true church, we are right, that mindset, that it's so hard for people to self-reflect and to take accountability, which is so weird, because that's the best thing I could ever do for myself. That's the moment when my life started to be my life, is when I finally took accountability, even in my divorce, and saying, I made mistakes too.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. I was being toxic as well, rather than it being, because a lot of times when people get divorced, they're like, oh, this is all them, none me.
Yep.
When you take accountability, you realize now you're taking control of your life. Instead of it being everybody else's fault, in control of everyone else, it's back in your hands, which a lot of people don't, even out here, I feel like they don't realize that by taking that accountability, you're taking your life in your own hands now. Yeah. It's no one else's.
You mentioned you were losing yourself in the relationship toward the end before you got a divorce. Is there a time that you felt like you were yourself back when you were in the order?
I feel like the moments that I was fighting the order, I felt the most myself. The moments that I was showing these verses and being like, look, in the Bible it says not to marry your sibling. Why are you guys doing that? Yeah. For some reason, that always made me feel, and this is so creepy to talk about because I think that it's a little bit of like the whole direction thing. Yeah. I don't like maybe I can figure out a better way to, I did have a personal revelation of like, I knew while I was in the order at like 15, I knew one day I was going to be out here talking about that place. Like I didn't know how, but one day I was going to be out of the order, exposing the order. And while I was in the order, exposing the order, it felt right. I've had people in the order ask me, how were you just like so basically not giving a flying F and just saying it like it is in the order? Yeah. But for me, it was hard to not be that way. Yeah. It was hard to conform. For a lot of people, it's easier to conform and don't let the eyes be on you. For me, it was harder to pretend that I was something that I wasn't. Yeah. So from a young age, yeah.
And I will say that it's hard to accept what we would call spiritual experiences when the cult that we are raised in is so based on that. And so this is my experience anyway. As soon as I left Mormonism, you kind of want to just throw everything out. Like none of it was real. It was just all in my head or this or that. But I think it's okay to recognize that we do still have these intuitive hits or whatever it is, this guiding force, whether it's a God, whether it's our higher self, whether it's just whatever, like logic. I think it's okay to recognize that those things happen. And it's okay to recognize that in the order, you had this sense of this greater purpose inside of you that you were going to expose it eventually, instead of just discounting it, saying, oh, it was just direction and direction's not real. Because I do think I had incredible experiences, spiritual experiences when I was a Mormon. And that's why my testimony was so strong, is because I'm like, well, if I feel this way, it's obviously the true church, not realizing that you can separate those two and you can realize that I'm just an incredibly spiritual person, not having anything to do with the religion I was part of, and they don't have to be enmeshed. Right. And I think anytime you see the people in the comments who are active at LDS, it's not based on logic. It's, I know that this is the true church because I cannot deny my experiences. And I always say, well, no one's asking you to deny your experiences. I would lean into those experiences, but know that it doesn't have to be connected to a religion. And so what I was going to say earlier is something that I've noticed doing this channel within the self-reflection and accountability thing is I find myself giving advice that I myself won't take.
Yep, I've done that.
So like when people are telling me their traumas, I'm like, yeah, it wasn't your fault. Don't blame yourself for this. And then I watch back later, I'm like, damn, I should really listen to that advice.
Yeah.
And so what I was wondering with you, because you were so fresh out and then you started this show and you're actively helping people escape, did you have those moments where you're trying to help someone get out of a bad marriage, for example, or a toxic marriage, and you're giving them advice and realizing, oh, wait, that's something that I should be listening to?
Yeah, I think a lot of I still do it to this day where I'm like, this is good information. Like I've been helping someone else through a divorce and I'm like, I wish that I would have taken this advice when I was going through mine. Yeah. Not blaming myself, not making it all about like I was saying before, like I'm failing now because this marriage didn't work out. Because the reality is, when people are like, oh, sorry about your marriage, it's like, but it wasn't a good marriage, that's why we left, so why are you saying sorry?
Right. Yeah, I think it's funny. I heard a comedian do this whole bit about when he's like, I got a divorce, and the crowd goes, oh, and he goes, what? No, this is amazing. He goes, no happy marriage has ever ended in divorce. And everyone's like, oh yeah, that's true. But I think there's also this mentality just in society in general that divorce is bad.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. If two people are unhealthy and unhappy, and especially if there's abuse going on, it's okay to walk away. It's okay to, what people would perceive as, accept defeat and move on, because you're just going to be so much happier if you know that this is not where you need to be. Yeah. If you've really done the work and you've realized, maybe you've gone to counseling or whatever, and you know this is not good for me, I think that's okay. Okay, so we're going to talk a lot about relationships after the order, but first I just want to know if there are any behind the scenes moments of the show Escaping Polygamy that people don't know about, or things you want to add extra context to.
Since we're on the topic of relationships now, and you were talking about, was there any advice that you wish you would have taken? I remember giving bad advice too while I was saying the advice. I'm like, this is bad advice on relationships. Too, sadly, if you watch the show, you know the story of Megan and Chris, and they actually were going to get married. They were engaged. And I remember seeing a lot of my younger self in her. And internally, I was thinking, run. Like, because I at that time was like rethinking my whole life kind of, and going to therapy, and just like their relationship was kind of triggering me. But I was like, I'm so happy for you guys. Da, 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 da. And I was kind of just like this, I didn't know her well enough to be like, are you happy? You know what I mean? Yeah. And she had just left a cult. He had just left a cult. They're running together. I remember seeing red flags in him, probably the same red flags that people saw in my husband. But I was just like, good luck. And then luckily they didn't do it. They're not together anymore. But like, if you look at it, people who are in relationships at 18, most of the people that I saw in those relationships, I'm happy that they didn't marry the people that they were dating, because you're 18. There's the lucky ones that somehow have made it work. But yeah, so if Megan's watching this, I'm sorry that I gave you all that bad advice. But the only other behind the scenes thing I can think of right now is that Lauren's escape. We went into Colorado City. I think this is like one of the only times I ever saw like the police of Colorado City and realizing they were also FLDS. Jeez. And it's embarrassing. I had like a full blown panic because they had guns. I was like, they have guns, you guys. Like, and we're in the middle of nowhere. Like, yeah. I thought anything could happen. But if it was the order, I wouldn't be scared, because I know the mentality of them. I don't know the mentality of these FLDs. I don't know what they're capable of. So I was freaking out. They pulled us over while Lauren's waiting for us. And I'm like, it's going to be dark soon. We got to go help him. The police come up to our door, and I just unbuckled and ran. And they didn't do anything. Like, really? They just sat, like the crew stayed there and talked with them. But I was like, I got to go help Lauren. I don't have time for this. And I'm also really scared right now. So I just ran, and like, I don't even think I remember where I was going. I was just like, I need to get out of here. Yeah. And they cut that, which I'm glad, because it made me look like a little wuss. Like, I'm like, why am I here? But it was fun.
No, that definitely feels like a scary moment, like Handmaid's Tale or something, where you've escaped and then you find the police and then they're part of the cult, and you're like, no. Yeah, that's terrifying.
What was that like, watching yourself back? And then your husband, you guys are watching you had 4 seasons?
4 seasons.
So what was that like? Just
watching ourselves like on camera?
Did you watch yourself back? Did you watch the show?
I did. We actually had a premiere little party of the very first episode airing, and it was me, Jessica, Chanel. It was like everyone that was in the first the pilot, and it was in this little theater room at, I think, Jessica's mom's house, her adopted mom. And I was like, when I came on screen, I was like, oh my God, that's what I look like. Like, it was a really weird. And then like, I remember if you watch the pilot again, this will probably make you laugh. Go watch the pilot again. I put all my best outfits on. Those were all my best clothes. And I watch it back and I'm like, that was my favorite outfit. And I'm just over there like a little cult kid, like finally got to show my shoulders.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was very interesting to look back. But honestly, I think even YouTube, and I don't know if you experience this, watching yourself back on YouTube and just like seeing how other people perceive you, it can be bad, but it can also be very like, I don't know if it's like more of like helps you to be more self-aware. Yeah, self-aware. You realize way more about yourself. And like my sister was saying this, like the key to being happy is to making sure that how you perceive yourself, how others perceive you, and
how you want to be perceived.
Yeah. As soon as they're all in line, that's how you can truly be happy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like I'm not all the way there yet, but this helps to be able to look back and be like, yeah, I agree with what I said, or I disagree with what I said.
That's interesting. I have kind of always grown up with the I don't care what people think of me vibes.
That's good though.
So I've always been kind of weird in the way that I dressed in high school and stuff. I just expressed myself. But yeah, I definitely personally don't want to make my happiness reliant on how others perceive me, because also everyone is looking through their own lens, their own perspective, and their own life experiences coming together to perceive me in a certain way. So I really can't, even if I'm just trying to be a good person, someone could see it like this friggin' ex-Mormon is just angry and trying to take down the church. Like they're always going to have their own belief systems.
That's a good point to say too, because that's something I had to it took a long time to learn. A lot of people's perception of you is projection.
Yeah.
A lot of when someone's being negative to you, especially, it's really just a reflection of what's going on internally.
Yeah, it definitely can be. I mean, there's certainly reasons why people can validly be upset about something, but it always comes through filters. So I just always have to say perspective. And that's why we have this channel, is to shed more perspective and more light on people and situations so that we can ultimately just be more compassionate, because I think compassion is where the real happiness comes in. When you can really just understand somebody, people open up and they're more kind and they're more willing to be kind back, you know?
Right. Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah. And they see themselves in others. That's like the purest form of empathy, you know, being able to relate.
That's so true.
And you can't make everyone happy either. That's a whole other point. So while you're watching yourself and you're kind of, you're going through this journey, you know, you need to hold yourself accountable. You're trying to navigate through the feelings of, wait, this is still kind of cult-like in my relationship. You're losing yourself in this process while you're in the marriage. What is your relationship like at this point with yourself?
It was terrible. I remember I looked in the mirror at myself in the bathroom and I was like, I don't even like this person. I wouldn't even be friends with her. And it was like, I would cry a lot. And the sad part is like, a lot of the times my husband didn't know what to do or how to deal with these emotions. And it's because of where we came from. And I was processing it in therapy and he was still in the same place with not thinking he needed therapy, which I think everyone needs some form of therapy, whether it's talk, whether it's, you know, you have to admit that you don't have all of the skills. So it's okay to look externally for those. But I was going through this whole phase of like, I hate myself. I hate this person that I've turned into. I don't even know her. I don't even like her. So I had to go through that really dark place. And it was very similar to when I left the order, that really dark place of not trusting myself, not knowing what I'm doing, being really scared of the next step, but feeling like I needed to make the jump. And in the order, it was the jump of leaving and jumping into the unknown. With my marriage, it was the jump of being divorced and having no idea what's going to happen. And then I left. I had to get out of Utah. We filed for divorce. He was I'm appreciative that we didn't have to get lawyers. It didn't get messy till after the divorce. So the divorce got finalized. It was a little ugly, but it was to the point where we had a mediator. We were cordial. And then I was like, I have to get out of Utah. And I just moved to Vegas. And I went from one extreme. Like, I was married, not swearing. Like, one of the lectures my husband gave me was on swearing because he caught me swearing in a video. There was a time where I swore on Escaping Polygamy and they bleeped it out. And he's like, if we ever have kids, you have to tell the kids that you didn't swear in that episode, that they just bleeped it. And I was like,
that's extreme.
I'm not going to lie to my kids.
Was that a big moment for you as far as like, oh shit, I need to divorce this guy? Because
I was like, I don't care about these qualities. And I am stepping on eggshells so that you can feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm conforming to this box of a person that you want that I'm not. And that's not healthy. You don't love this person. You love what I've accumulated for you.
Yeah.
It's so unhealthy. But that was what we saw in the order. That was so normal. And then finally I was like, I can't do this anymore. Moved to Vegas and I'm like, I'm gonna swear. I don't care. I might start drinking. I might start, all of these different things that I've never got to try while being like, I basically was like still in the order in Utah. But then it's like one extreme to the next. Like in Vegas, I was like, everybody's drunk all the time.
Yeah.
Is this the normal?
Exactly. So I think we talked about that on our episodes together because I also moved to Vegas and I was just like, wait a second, this is a little crazy out here. I don't really know what's what.
Yeah. And then that's when I feel like really started dating and like messing up, basically like dating people that I'm like, why am I dating this person? And learning like, okay, I'll never date someone like this. I'll never date someone like that. I liked these qualities. I had a burn book. You know how like on Mean Girls they have like the faces? I would cut out pictures of these men, put them in the burn book and say, this is why I will never date them again. These are the good qualities. These are the bad. Don't ever date someone like this again.
I'm sure that was super helpful.
It was.
Cathartic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But then I run into my ex I was with him for a year and a half. Met him in Vegas. And I think I was honestly, and I did tell him this, I was attracted to the fact that he swore, the fact that he drank, the fact that he was, so different.
Did he have tattoos?
No tattoos, actually.
Interesting.
Very interesting. I actually haven't dated anyone that's, honestly, I think there's still something in me that's like scared of people with tattoos because of where I came from.
Yeah.
But like, I liked that it was different than, because I did before him, I was dating this Jewish boy. And I was like, I don't think I ever want to date a religious boy again. Because he was like, well, if we stay together, like long term, you have to convert.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck that. I'm not doing that.
Hard pass.
Yeah. And so I really liked that this guy, he had never been raised in religion. He didn't care about, like, he was so like no filter. I felt like I knew what he was thinking. And in my brain, I was like, this means he's not lying to me because he's got no filter. Which like looking back, I'm like, there were times where I could read between the lines on what he was saying. But he also did talk about women in a very
derogatory way.
Yeah. And I thought, again, this is just how the world is, you know?
Because you hadn't had a healthy relationship up until that point. So you didn't know that there were men who weren't derogatory towards women.
Yep. At this point, I was like, and also I'm dating men in Vegas.
Yeah, like, the land of Satan. Basically. You go from one.
Sin City.
Yeah.
Sin City. And so long story short, I find out that he had a girlfriend the whole time. But I had this gut feeling. And I really did want to go through his phone, but my therapist was like, she was a therapist that had been working with women, and mostly women from the order. And she was like, are you sure this is not just a trait because you left a cult? And I love her. Like, I still go say hi to her. She's great. But I had to switch therapists after that because I stayed with him longer because I was convinced, you know what, you're right. I'm just acting crazy.
Paranoid.
No, this is actually like a big story. You're dating this guy for a year and a half. You're boyfriend and girlfriend. So you're in a
He asked, but mind you, he asked me to be his girlfriend. Yeah. He tells me he loves me first. And I'm like, whoa. Yeah. I liked that he lived in a different state because I didn't want to move fast. I just got divorced, right? Yeah. This was months after my divorce. Like, yeah. So then,
so you're still building trust with people.
Yeah. He was like, I love you. He takes me to Tulum. He tells me, like, talks about, like, literally, I remember New Year's him talking about marrying me.
How did he
How
get
was he
away
able to
with
do
that?
Because the whole thing is he had another girlfriend that he lived with.
He was with her for 10 years. And he flat out, he made up this whole lie, because people were like, Amanda, you're stupid. How did you not know? He was really good at lying.
Girl, I've been there.
He was like, I have this really good deal on this place that I'm living at while I'm remodeling my new place. Like, we'll move into my new place together. But the rule is that when I stay at my friend's parents' home, I need to respect the home and I can't have guests over.
Oh my gosh, it's like so parallel to my experience.
No, was he living with a girl too? Oh my gosh.
I'm so embarrassed. But
I was too. I was like, stupid.
But the reason we're bringing this up, guys, is because it directly correlates to how we were raised. Mm-hmm. We are used to being in these patterns where we are manipulated. We are told what to do. We are told how to act. We are told what to believe. That's key here, guys. Yep. When someone says this is how it is, you are just expected to believe it.
And you don't want to be.
You don't want to be an issue. You don't want to cause any problems.
And I asked if I could just see his phone to put me at ease, because I would see this person messaging him, and he flat out was like, and again, I don't know what a normal relationship looks like. Yeah. I know what an unhealthy one does. And he was like, I just don't want to be unhealthy. I've been in relationships where we're looking through each other's phones. It's toxic. And I'm like, that's a good point.
That's gosh, that's the worst.
But yeah, I remember having a conversation with my therapist, like, I don't care if you think it's toxic. I'm going through his phone. And for 2 weeks, I went through his phone. He had no idea that I was just scrolling on.
You know what else is crazy about this? To kind of piggyback off what you're saying too, as like the underlying theme of this, as it pertains to cult life, is I would imagine that when you're in the order to deal and survive that whole reality, you had to suppress a lot of your intuition. So now you have this, there's nothing like a woman's intuition. You're always going to get caught when you're a man who cheats, because the woman's intuition is going to be spot on. So you're having these intuitive thoughts. I think there's something going on with this guy. Mm-hmm. Your therapist is like, you're being weird. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But you do it anyway, because you follow your intuition.
Yep. The shocking thing is I did this thing, and I still will do this. I will know what the truth is, and I'll ask you the question and see if you're going to lie to me. Mm-hmm. And I did that to him a lot, and he would come up with these elaborate lies
that just that convince you that you're crazy. So this happened to me twice. The first one, I'm realizing now, it was actually right after I left the Mormon church. He did have tattoos. He was the bad boy.
Babe.
Sorry, babe.
I don't have tattoos, by the way. Not that it matters, but just for the record.
I'm healed now, babe. That's in the past. But I did fall into this toxic relationship, and oh, damn it, he was good at lying. And like, I literally found out that he had a baby mama. She was pregnant while we were dating. Wow. And he was same thing. I love you so much. Oh my God. And I'm like, I don't know. This is a little crazy. And then I find out that he has this baby mama because I see his phone. And he convinces me that, she just claims it's my child. I don't even think it is, but we're going to do a paternity test. I don't even think it is. Wow. And so I'm just like, okay, well, maybe this chick is just like trying to rope him into something. He's got me all convinced. And then then I find out that after the baby's born, like months later, he was still like, we still don't know. We don't have the test results. I find out because she messages me and is like, are you his girlfriend? And I was like, yeah, who are you? I'm his baby mama. And I'm like, but are you sure? And she's like, he was there at the birth kissing his daughter. And I'm like, I felt so dumb. Yep. But even then, after I literally went to her house, this was like so dramatic, guys. I went to her house and he called because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be with a friend tonight. I'm just gonna sleep with a friend, because he was always in my house every single night. So how could he possibly have another relationship? And so I go to her house and she's like, oh, look who's calling. And it was him. He wanted to come over and I was like, bring him over. It was
so dramatic.
It was this whole thing.
I love it.
But then even after that, he tried to convince me that we weren't in a relationship. She's crazy. She was lying.
The gaslighting is still...
It's my baby. Of course I'm going to have to be in her life. And I'm just like, what?
You're like,
it's
shut up. Stop roping me into your drama. This is what I was saying earlier, like the most dramatic people I've ever met in my life are men. This is why they will literally sit there. Not all of them, obviously, because we wouldn't be in relationships or dating. Yeah. But there are times where I, like with my ex, I was like, you knew that I came from this polygamous cult. You talk shit on these polygamous men. You are worse than them because at least they're doing it in front of the women. You're trying to force me to live polygamy without my consent.
Oh my god.
And I messaged the girl. I was that girl. I messaged her from his phone. I was like, hey, just so you know, he's been lying to the both of us. I've been reading the messages. She wasn't willing to go through his phone and I was. And she was like, well, I will never do that. And I was like, you should. And I will never. I have an open phone policy now.
And he's talking smack about order people from the tales that you're telling. And he's the one over here.
Talking smack about her too, like saying like, well, these things about her, like she just can't get over me. I'm like, shut up. And talking bad about me to her, to like gaslighting both of us. And I flat out, this was so empowering. And I encourage every woman to do this. After you find out, after you have all the screenshots, you have all the evidence, confront them and then tell them you're never going to see them again. Because it's such a stab to their heart. They're like, what? Wait, what? They didn't prepare for it. You've prepared. You've already been done with the relationship. But I flat out was like, doing that same thing, like calling him out on his lies and knowing the truth and seeing if he's going to lie again. And I was like, you might have to bleep this out, but I was like, I want you, because he kept looking out the window when he was like, we were just roommates. We weren't even having sex. I grabbed his face and I was like, I want you to look me in the fucking eyes when you lie to me. And he, like a little kid, he was like, I was like cross-eyed. It felt so good.
Oh my gosh,
you're claiming your power back.
I did that same thing when I fell for it a second time, guys. I'm embarrassed. I came from a cult. But seriously, when we fall into this, and I also have to point out that, okay, there's so many things. I'm going to start with the story. So I did the same thing. I confronted him and I was with my good friend now who basically called him out because he was telling her all the things and she was like, what? You're doing this to my friend? And she came and told me like, hey, you need to realize all this is happening. So she was on my side. We both confronted him together so he couldn't get out of it. And I grabbed him and I was like, just tell me that you never loved me. Just tell me. And he didn't know what to say in front of the girl who he had said like, oh yeah, these are just my bitches. And like, they all just like trade off every night. I didn't know. He was with like 8 other women besides me. Like that's how, anyways.
And yeah, I convinced myself though that it's not happening. Like how you're saying they're at my house all the time. I was like, it's a full-time job to be juggling. I would be depressed doing what he's doing. There's no way.
It's exhausting. And so like the lies that they come up with, and I also have to point out this is one of the other things, is the cult manipulation, which is within narcissistic relationships. So they have no empathy. They have no problem lying. And they address the lie before you find out so that when you find out, you already know. So cults do this all the time. Even Mormonism, like they'll tell you something like, oh yeah, people may say this, but this is what's really going on, even though that's still a lie. So that when the ex-Mormon comes and goes, did you know this? They're like, I knew you were going to say that. I knew, like, it's already been addressed. And so they would come up with these lies like, oh, I can't make it tonight. I got a flat tire. He would send me a photo of his motorcycle with a flat tire. I find out from my friend, he had photos of alibis just in his phones.
So
he
smart.
would literally have someone text him as if he were someone else. He would change the person's name on the phone and say, have this conversation with me. And he would text back and forth, take a screenshot and be like, see, I'm with this person. And like, this is what's going on. And I believed him because I was conditioned to just take it at face value. And also,
who's crazy enough to do that? Like for full time? That is
just
ridiculous.
Being lied to just every day of my life. And I knew deep down, I was like, something's off. But I was so willing to be the good person of wanting to see the best in everybody. And that's another thing that cults take advantage of is your good nature. People just want to be better. People want to have a good chance at the afterlife. People want to make the world a better place. That's why they join these groups with all these big promises. And they just get lied to and taken advantage of.
Right.
And so that's why we always have to say it's systems, not people, because people who are in the Mormon church, for example, are wonderful people. Most of them are incredible people. And it's just because they have the best intentions. Right. They do want to give service and they want to help other people and take casseroles to their neighbors, you know?
But those are the easiest to take advantage of.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Much empathy. And I think it takes 2 things. What me and you got into these toxic relationships, it takes 2 things. One, us being so empathetic and then we become a target for them. They can see it and they will come to us. But us, it being very normal to be controlled by narcissists. Like I saw those things in him and I was like, this is so familiar.
I was going to say, was there part of you that felt, we talk about how your intuition is powerful. Do you think intuitively you gravitated toward a narcissist?
I really do. And I feel dumb for saying that, but also same thing, like you were so conditioned to trust those narcissists that sadly, I did the same thing I struggled with the breakup because it was like this weird connection, but it really was just so familiar to the toxic stuff that I grew up in. Like my parents' relationship was very conditional. And I think I told you this off camera, but I asked him to his face, like, do you think you could be a sociopath? Because he was so lacking empathy. But to me, it was kind of normal because in the order, you think these men care about these kids? You think the men care about their wives? No. And so to me, he just looked like all the men that I knew. And I was like, maybe this is normal.
Right.
But so you were probably very attracted to that almost like narcissistic tendencies. The red flags look beautiful, right?
And also within the narcissistic people, they do this love bombing technique that just is unmatched by anybody else. Like they know how to get into your brain and make you feel like the most perfect person in the world. And you really want to believe it. You want to believe it because also that's what these cults do is they make you feel like you are special. You are the chosen one. You are this, you are that. And you get used to being propped up. And when you don't get that anymore, even in just normal relationships where, yeah, like we make each other feel special, but he's not over here like I'm worshiping you, which is good. Like I don't need that. I don't want that anymore. But narcissists are so good at doing that and you just crave this attention and then they pull away and you're like, wait, what are you doing? And you'll do anything to get that back.
Right.
And so it's this push and pull, this constant like high highs and low lows to where you just feel like crap. But then when they come around and they give you that look and they make you feel special, you're like, okay, it's good. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Yeah. And it's just this toxic circle.
My mom's relationship, like all the relationships I saw in the order was like that. They're just grasping at these breadcrumbs from this attention from these narcissistic men.
Yeah,
it's a cycle.
They'll take anything.
Speaking of your mom, how's your relationship like with your mom now?
It's like this, but it's also I'm so grateful that I can have somewhat of a relationship with her because I know so many people who leave. Like you've had Michelle on your channel. She was like dead to her family when she left. Yeah. Like there's so many that when they leave is the last time they ever see their family. So I am so thankful that my mom did have somewhat of a relationship with me afterwards, but it's such a like it's kind of toxic. It's like I can only be around you in secret, and I almost am scared talking about it because I don't want to get her in trouble.
Yeah, but only say as much as you're comfortable and able to say.
She did leave on the show. She did voice that she didn't like what was going on, but she did end up going back. And I think it's that cycle again. Like, you don't really know how to get out of it. And my mom got married at 17 to her sister's husband and doesn't know anything else. Wow. So it's really hard to even like, let's say I did want to go hang out with her. Like I'm not allowed home for Christmas. I'm not like, there's specific rules that we all know as ex-members of the family. Like I wasn't allowed to come to my brother's wedding. Like I was told that I would be escorted off the property if I showed up because order members are the only family and we're not order members.
Yeah.
So it's a really unhealthy, like I've had to put up a lot of boundaries because I flat out had the realization through therapy, I wouldn't even be friends with someone who treated me like my mom did. So why am I giving her this open door to hurt me? Yeah. So I had to, and I let her know, I was like, I'm putting this barrier up. Like, I'm not cutting you out of my life, but I have to protect myself boundaries. From you.
Yeah. And I want to end with relationships and understanding how we can heal ourselves and accept better relationships. Because I think it's really important to note that we accept the love we think we deserve. And a lot of times that's why we end up back in these narcissistic relationships because that's all that we've known. That's what we think is normal. And we're just like, yeah, this is okay. And they love me most of the time and relationships aren't perfect. And so you just kind of deal with it, not realizing that you can have something that's a lot better and healthier and non-toxic.
You don't have to settle. I honestly, seeing you guys gives me a lot of hope.
Oh,
this is the sad thing. I've only seen like 5 relationships that I like look at and I'm like, I want to take from that to like learn. And you guys are one of those.
Oh, that's so sweet.
You.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I do really enjoy about us is the fact that we're growing this baby, this C2C baby together. And it's something I always knew I wanted to do, is grow something with the person that I love.
Yeah.
And that I think is just helps, because you're excited about something together.
Yeah.
You're on a mission together.
I can definitely see that.
And you can grow together both creatively, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And
I see too, like you guys really encourage each other's individuality, which is so, I don't know why that's so hard for people, but like you encourage him to be his best self, he encourages you. And instead of like, I think a lot of relationships are like, I guess so self-centered. Like, what can you do for me?
Right.
Rather than if people realize, if you just want to support your partner, you both grow. You're both supporting each other to grow the relationship and yourself as a whole.
And that's the unconditional love.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And that's something that I wanted to bring up too, is people are probably saying, okay, I'm in this cycle. How do I get out of this toxic cycle? And I think a lot of it has to do with finding your individuality, understanding who you are. So before I met him, I took 2 years off of dating, and it's the best thing I could have done, because I was always in a relationship. I'd be in a 1-year relationship and then single for 3 months and then back in another one for 1.5 years and then another one for 2 years. And I really didn't take any time for myself, because I was so much like, I just want to be loved and I want to cuddle someone and I just whatever. But it really doesn't leave a whole lot of room to figure out who you are.
Right.
And so, first of all, understanding who you are, loving who you are, loving the person that you've become, whatever that means to you, whether it's finding a hobby that you're just like, this is amazing, this is awesome, I'm expressing myself, whether it's spending time with your family, finding something that truly brings you joy, and then you're going to find that you're attracting different people into your life. Because I don't think that if I would have met Jonathan when I hadn't done that work on myself, if we would have been compatible, it probably would have been a mismatch. And so he's done a lot of work on himself. I've done a lot of work on myself. So when we came together, it was like, oh, this feels different. This is healed. This is healthy. And so I don't know if you want to talk about your love life, but
I had one question actually. So let me see. But on that topic, did you ever feel like, because this is so healthy, it was so unfamiliar? And a little
or something wrong.
Sound like, when's the other shoe gonna drop?
Yeah, when is this gonna fail? Or you start to self-sabotage.
Yeah, I've done that in previous relationships, because we mentioned this on the live, that not all of my relationships have been unhealthy. I have to say that. And so I do know what a positive relationship looks like, but I needed to do the work on myself to also, again, be willing to accept the love that I think that I deserve, and know that I deserve a lot, and know that I have a high bar for what I'm willing to put up with and what I'm not willing to put up with. And so I think meeting you, everything just kind of fit into place, and I did accept it. I was like, wait, this is good and that's okay, and I'm going to lean into it. And for the first time, I wasn't like, maybe I should wait 10 minutes before I text back because I don't want him to think that I'm too forward or whatever. Everything just felt so open and natural, and it just flowed. And that was the first time for me that there was no kind of like push and pull playing a game and trying to figure each other out. We were both just like, yeah, you down? Are you down? Yeah, let's do this. So it worked out.
Being honest and real. Yeah. I feel like because I am dating someone now, and I have just been, I know. I
tell us, Amanda. Tell everybody.
This on my channel, so this is the announcement. I'm dating someone.
Okay.
But I went through that in the beginning. I was like, I don't know if I'm in a healthy place, because I need to love myself more so that I can be willing to accept the love from you. But we had this instant connection, and it was very unfamiliar, but it felt very like, you were actually saying it, you guys, in the elevator when we were going to that rooftop bar. You felt like home, felt safe. And that was the first time that I really understood that was with him. And he said the same things back to me. And I was like, so this is what it's like. Because even in all my relationships, every single one of them, there was times where I was like, especially the one that was cheating on me, I was like so excited for him to leave and go home, because I was exhausted. They took so much of my energy. Whereas with the guy I'm dating now, he gives me energy. Like, I feel after a conversation with him, I feel better about myself, but better about the day. And I'm like, wow, so that's what a relationship should be.
Emotional vampires.
I'm in love with storytelling, and I can't help but look at the journey that you've taken from, with all of our guests really, but with you in particular. I mean, it's such a story of finding individuality, wanting to be loved and to love, and to just just be chill, man. I just want everything to be cool. Like why drama is finding me. I love that you're on this mission to expose the order. I love that you are just wanting to be vulnerable on your channel. You're kind of doing what we're doing, where people are able to connect to see, you're helping a lot of people on your journey of wanting to find your own individuality. So kudos to you.
Yeah. I feel like we're all kind of doing a similar thing, and it's great how it creates that community. It like naturally attracts that healthy, or the community that wants to be healthy, right? Yeah. So it really has made me, I don't like to like brag, but I'll pat myself on the back like,
brag a little bit, girl.
You did attract that healthy community that wants to be, they're like, I will like cry looking at comments where they're nice to each other and they're becoming friends in the comments. Like, oh, and it's because you guys too have made this somehow like a environment where they feel safe enough to share and to feel like it's not going to be something that's, you know, thrown in their face, or, you know, all the things that we've had to go through to get to where we're at. But I'm so glad you guys found each other, and that's what I'm hoping to, you know, one day I can finally have I think it's so much more to do with myself than I realized, and I'm still needing to do work on loving myself, like you were saying, because there is times in this relationship where he'll say all these nice things about myself and I'm instantly throwing it out the window. Like, nope. And I don't like that. I want to be able to be like, thank you, you too, you know, rather than anyways.
Or, you know, it's even more powerful. Even if you say it in a cheeky way, it's, I know. So like, you're amazing. Thanks, I know. Yeah. Like, it feels so wrong. And even just me saying that feels cringy, because everything in Mormonism is be humble. Don't be vain. Like, don't flaunt your accomplishments. Hi, boo-boo.
But how is it vain to love yourself?
It's not.
It's like more humble is hating yourself.
But here's the thing. The reason they don't want you to love yourself is because that's how they control you.
Right.
If they can make you hate yourself, feel ashamed of yourself, feel guilty all the time, then you need them. And once you come into your power, you don't need them anymore. And that's what's so terrifying to them. They don't want you to be strong, independent, have your own intuition, follow your intuition, speak out, have a voice. They don't want any of that. And so that's what's so important when you leave, is to really come into that presence, step into that energy, and realize that you have something to say, that you have thoughts and opinions, that you don't need to listen to anyone else. You can, take advice from other people, learn, grow, expand, but ultimately do what you want to do.
Right. Yeah. That's such a good, I feel like, ending spot.
Yeah.
Yes. So this has been awesome. I'm so glad you came to LA.
Yes,
when are you coming back? Because we need to do this again.
I know. Yeah. I'll probably be back. Well, I mean, we might be in Utah at the same time too. So
really?
Maybe we can all hang out down there. Yeah. I actually told the guy I'm dating too now. I'm like scared to say his name because I'm like, I don't want people
You don't have to say his name yet.
Yeah, to be stalking him or order people to be over there like harassing him. But I was telling him about this he watched our whole interview and he was like, I want to meet them now. We should go on a double date.
We want to
down.
meet too.
I'm like, let's go hang out in California.
Yeah.
He could bring his dog and your dogs could be friends.
Yeah. Little ween. So this has been awesome. Guys, if you haven't followed Amanda already, go subscribe over on her channel. We'll put her link in the description below, and follow her on Instagram. Your ad is Amanda Ray. Amanda Ray Grant.
Amanda Ray Grant on Instagram, yeah. And then on YouTube, it's still Amanda Loves Rachel. Rachel's my little sister, yeah. But we also, if you want to see our live that we did, we have that on my channel as well.
And we're about to record a video that you're going to have on your channel as well.
Yes. Hopefully if we have enough time, then we will
we took the whole time. We're going to try and do our best. And if you want to support the channel, guys, you can get some of our merch. We have a famous shirt from Amanda's Linda Listen on our show, which is Linda Listen, Don't Boink Your Sisters.
Don't Boink Your Sisters.
It's been a popular one. And another one, I'm sorry for what I said when I was in a cult, which is also really relevant for this episode. And Apostates Unite, good stuff over there. And we're also planning a retreat, guys, a C2C retreat. We're so excited to be able to meet you in real life, go somewhere in the world, really just disconnect from everything and reconnect with ourselves, and just get to know everyone in this community. There's going to be 8 to 20 spots. So right now we are gathering information on where you want to go. And there will be a survey link in the description. You can click that. It takes like 3 minutes to fill out.
Just to gather some information about your budget, where you want to go, where you're at with things, and then we can bounce back
time of year,
officially announce what the trip will be. And then from there we could pick who's going to fill the spots.
Yeah. And Also, if you fill out the survey link, you will be the first to know when we actually do drop the location. So you know, first come, first serve as far as signing up for it. So we're really excited.
Yeah.
I ask her.
But let's go on vacation together. And also have it be a therapeutic session. We're going to have a clinical therapist with us.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. The whole thing isn't going to be that. We're going to do excursions and stuff, but we will have some moments where we can do some like group therapy.
That's so cool.
Yeah. The other way is to become a patron at patreon.com/cults2consciousness. Our newest patrons, Kara, Julie, and Samantha, thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
And wait, we didn't do a Linda Listen.
Oh, am I doing it again?
Yeah, give me a Linda Listen.
Don't boink your brothers. Just kidding. No, I don't know. I didn't think about that. I thought that it was just a one-time thing.
I totally forgot.
Didn't even think, because when you asked me that, I was like, I wish I had more time to think about it. And now I'm like, I'm so blank. Or maybe just follow your gut. Yeah, that's a good one. Linda, listen, follow your gut. If you think he's cheating, he probably is.
Okay, perfect. So if you like this video, guys, I will link 2 more here down below that you're going to want to check out. And until next time, follow your highest excitement.
Be conscious and be well.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.